No one wants you here. That's what my brother said last night. My parents didn't flinch. They nodded, like he had spoken some ancient truth carved into stone. I didn't fight. I didn't beg. I just zipped my bag and walked out of the only house I'd ever called home. And this morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 39 missed calls, stacked like a wall of desperation from the same people who told me I wasn't wanted. Funny, isn't it? How silence can bury you for years, and then suddenly their voices won't leave you alone. My name is Ava Rook, and this is the moment my life split in two. Those 5 words didn't echo. They landed like a verdict. My brother Aaron said it with a smile that wasn't kind at all, and my parents nodded as if he had spoken something sacred. I didn't fight back. I just zipped up my bag, and the quiet sound of that zipper said everything I hadn't. The night air outside felt cleaner than the air I'd been breathing for 30 years. It had started an hour earlier, around 6:30. I was hanging my framed state art award back on the hallway wall, the one I'd won years ago that had never gotten more than a half-hearted, "That's nice." My mother, Mara, walked by with a cup of tea and glanced at it. "Maybe leave that down," she said in that clipped, polite tone. "It gets in the way when guests come." Just like that, the one thing that had made me proud became clutter. And I understood again how invisible I was in that house. At 6:50, my phone buzzed with a text from my father, Thomas. Family meeting, 7 p.m., not can you come, not let's talk, just a command, like I was a subordinate on his payroll. I made black tea in the kitchen, listening to Aaron's laughter spill from the living room. When I peeked in, I saw him sprawled in his favorite armchair, angled perfectly toward the TV. The whole room subtly rearranged around his comfort. That was my family in a snapshot, everyone else bent around his orbit. By 7:05, we were all seated. My father leaned back like a manager about to deliver bad news. His arms crossed, voice flat. "You've been negative lately. Toxic, not helpful." The words sounded rehearsed, like they'd practiced this. "I've been quiet," I said calmly. "That's all." My younger sister, Becca, didn't even look up from her phone. "Yeah, you're always so difficult," she muttered. Another dismissal, another flick of dust off their shoulders. Then came the reveal. At 7:20, Aaron leaned forward, voice syrupy smooth. "Really, it's just that you've been difficult since I asked for your help with the apartment application. My credit's a mess, and you refuse to co-sign. That's what this is about, isn't it?" My stomach clenched. Of course, not my attitude, not my negativity. It was about convenience, how useful I was willing to be for him again. I shook my head slowly. "No, it's because I've been used too many times." His eyes narrowed, then curved into that sharp smile. "No one wants you here." My parents didn't flinch, didn't scold him, didn't even blink. They nodded, confirming the sentence like it had always been true, only now spoken aloud. At 7:40, I stood up. No raised voice, no slammed doors. I climbed the stairs, pulled my suitcase from the closet, folded clothes into it, slid my sketchbook and ink pens between shirts. Silence wasn't surrender this time. It was choice. By 7:55, I was back in the hallway, suitcase rolling behind me. My father blocked the doorway long enough to say, "This house doesn't need your attitude." I paused, touched the frame of my old art award still leaning against the wall, then switched off the light. At 8:05, the door shut behind me. The night air was dry and sharp, cicadas humming across the Austin dark. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. I typed a short message to the only person I could think of nearby. "You home?" It was for Miles Navarro, the one friend who had always noticed what others overlooked. The lights of the Rook House glowed behind me. I didn't look back. Morning in downtown Austin carried a different kind of quiet. I woke on Miles's couch, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, the sunlight slicing through the blinds in pale stripes. The air smelled like stale coffee and peace. On the counter, a sticky note in his neat handwriting read, "Use the kitchen. I'll be at work. Make yourself at home." I reached for my phone. 39 missed calls lit the screen, all from the same people who had told me I didn't belong. The family group chat glared back, red notifications flashing like alarms. Urgent. Call us now. Come home. Their voices had been silent when I laid my art award on the hallway table, silent when Aaron dismissed my victories. Now, suddenly, they couldn't stop shouting through a screen. I set the phone down and made coffee. Steam curled up like something alive. I opened my laptop, pulled up a half-finished illustration project, and tried to let the lines absorb me, but the phone wouldn't stop vibrating. At 9:05, curiosity won. I scrolled through the messages. Thomas, call us immediately. This is serious. Mara, please. Ava, emergency. Aaron, you're being childish. Come home. At 9:30, the truth arrived. Mara, Aaron's identity was stolen. The bank froze his account. They need an emergency contact to verify. Your name is still listed. Please, we can't access anything without you. I stared at the text until the words blurred. Years ago, when Aaron turned 18, he'd begged me to sign as his emergency contact because he didn't trust Mom and Dad with his info. Back then, I thought it meant I finally mattered, that I was someone he could rely on. Now that same link made me a tool again, a name to call when they were desperate. I laughed under my breath. The same tether that once made me feel special now felt like a shackle. They'd forgotten me completely until they needed saving. At 10:10, I slipped out to a corner cafe. The hum of espresso machines, the clink of cups, the soft chatter of strangers. It felt grounding. I opened my sketchbook and began to draw the old living room. Aaron's chair angled toward the TV, my father's crossed arms, my mother's polite, empty smile. I shaded the room darker than it had been, as if the walls themselves carried weight. For the first time, I wasn't sketching to be seen. I was sketching to remember what I'd left behind. At 11, my phone lit up again. This time, it was a call. Thomas's voice crackled through the speaker, sharp and commanding. This isn't a game, Ava. Get to the bank now. Do you understand the consequences if Aaron's credit collapses? We'll all pay for it. My hand tightened around the phone. That's his responsibility, I said flatly, not mine. His reply came quick and cold. Don't be childish. I hung up. For the first time in my life, I ended the call, not him. At 11:20, I walked aimlessly until I found a small gallery, white walls, soft echo. I asked the curator about submissions. She looked me up and down and said, "We've got an opening next week. Bring your portfolio." For a heartbeat, something warm flickered in my chest. Not fear, but possibility. By the time I walked back to Miles's apartment, I already knew what I'd do. Finish the Austin Desert series. The work I'd shelved too long out of fear, out of exhaustion, out of trying to please everyone but myself. At 11:30, I sent a message to the family group chat. Explain exactly what happened. Then I flipped the phone face down on the table. For once, I wasn't scrambling to fix things. For once, they could be the ones to explain themselves. The sun was high when I finally drove toward home. Miles had lent me his old Honda. The engine hummed like it knew I was still unsure. When I pulled into the cul-de-sac, my parents were already waiting in the yard. Mara's eyes were red and swollen. Aaron's mascara dark circles. Guilt disguised as exhaustion, and Thomas, stiff as ever, arms crossed like posture could hold the family together. Aaron was the first to speak. The bank needs you, Ava. You have to sign. They won't release the accounts without you. I looked at him, the way his hands fidgeted, even as he tried to hold his chin high. Isn't that the story of my life? I said softly. I only exist when I'm useful. The words hit like a mirror shattering. No one rushed to deny it. By 3:20, the air between us grew so heavy I could taste it. My father broke the silence first, voice clipped and managerial. This can't drag out. Handle it, and we can move on. I shook my head. No, you don't get to erase what happened last night. You humiliated me in front of everyone, your own blood. If you want me to consider helping, you'll apologize in the same place you shamed me, in the family group chat. each of you. Spell out exactly what you did. Thomas's jaw tightened. Family matters should stay private. We don't air dirty laundry in writing. I laughed, low and humorless. You made it public when you nodded at Aaron saying no one wanted me. That wasn't private. That was execution in plain view. They hesitated. But desperation eats pride faster than guilt ever could. By 3:45, my phone lit up again. The group chat buzzed to life. Thomas, we need to acknowledge how we hurt Ava. We were wrong. Mara, I know we overlooked you. I know we haven't shown enough appreciation. You're an important part of this family, and I'm sorry. Aaron, I was cruel. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I tapped one check mark. Acknowledgement. Nothing more. I'll consider it, I said quietly, slipping the phone back into my pocket. Their shoulders sagged in relief, but they didn't realize. My silence wasn't surrender. It was control. By 5 o'clock, the tension in my chest felt like wire pulled too tight. I drove toward the bank, Miles's old Honda humming beneath me, the late-day heat pressing against the windshield. I parked a block away and watched through the glass front as my parents and Aaron hurried inside, papers clutched, voices sharp even through the pain. I didn't move. For 30 minutes I sat there, watching them spin without me. The family who'd said I wasn't wanted now helpless because I wasn't there. The irony tasted clean, like the first breath after rain. At 5:45, I finally stepped out. The air smelled of asphalt and sunburnt concrete. Inside, the cool air conditioning hit my skin like judgment. Aaron spotted me first. His eyes widened, relief and panic tangled together. "You came," he said, almost a plea. "The bank won't release anything without your signature." I stopped 2 feet from him. "Then I guess you'll learn how to manage without me." He blinked. "Ava, please, don't do this. You're my sister." I met his stare. "You should have remembered that before you told me to leave." The silence cracked. My father's voice cut through it, clipped and commanding. "This isn't the place. Handle it quietly." People were already looking. A teller froze mid-count. A mother pulled her child closer. I turned slightly so they could all hear. "You were loud enough when you agreed I wasn't wanted," I said. "Now you're embarrassed?" "Why? Because someone else is finally seeing what I've lived with." My mother's hand trembled against her purse. "Ava, please. You're making a scene." "No," I answered, calm now. "I'm making it visible." For a long second, no one moved. Then I stepped back toward the door. "You want my help? Then you own what you did. Every word, every nod. Otherwise, this conversation ends here, outside again." The heat swallowed me whole. Behind the glass, I could see them arguing. My father's rigid posture, Aaron's frantic gestures, my mother's face folding in on itself. The glass reflected them like a cracked portrait. The family that once defined me, distorted at last by daylight. By 6:15, I was back in the car, engine running, hands shaking. Not from fear, from release. For the first time, their chaos wasn't mine to fix. I drove until the skyline dissolved behind me, until Austin's noise softened into the hum of highway wind. When I finally stopped, miles out by the river, the sun was bleeding into the water. I opened my sketchbook across the steering wheel and drew 3 figures framed in a window, their mouths open in a silent argument, the reflection splitting them down the middle. The pencil didn't tremble. My breathing evened out. As the sky darkened, a message buzzed on the dashboard. "Aaron, are you happy now? You're ruining everything." I typed back one line. "No, I'm free." Then I closed the phone, set it face down, and watched the last light slide off the river. For the first time, silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. By morning, the phone was already alive again. Screen lighting, buzzing, demanding. 57 missed calls stacked on top of last night's. I let them glow a while, the soft white light flickering across the coffee mug in my hands. Then I turned it face down. The city outside was waking up. Traffic humming, sunlight climbing over rooftops. Inside, everything was still. At 10, the first message slipped through. Mara, Ava, please, I know we were wrong. Just go to the bank today. A few minutes later, Thomas, if you don't, it'll destroy us all. I sipped my coffee and let their words sit unread. The quiet between messages was thicker than any apology. For years, I had lived waiting for their approval. Now, they waited for my reply. At noon, I walked to a small park 2 blocks away. Children knelt on the pavement, chalk staining their hands. They were drawing crooked suns and blue houses, the kind with smiling windows. I stood there, my throat tight, remembering the girl I had been, the one who drew beauty in a world that rarely looked her way. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. I just didn't belong in that house, in that hierarchy built on silence and control. I wanted something simpler, to live without proving, without permission. At 3, my father called again. His voice, once sharp and commanding, was smaller now. We understand, Ava. You don't owe us anything. But if you help, we'll never forget it. I looked out at the trees swaying in the wind. We'll see, I said quietly, and ended the call. The words didn't tremble. They landed firm. By evening, the sky melted into orange and lavender. I sat by the window of Miles's apartment, sketchbook open on my knees. I drew dunes, wide and endless, places with no walls, no doors, no locks to keep me out. The phone buzzed again. Aaron, so you'll let me drown over one sentence. My hand stilled on the page. One sentence. But it had never been just one. It was every birthday half forgotten, every time my achievements were brushed aside for his, every quiet dinner where I had swallowed my pride and called it peace. I typed slowly, each word deliberate. You're not drowning because of one sentence. You're drowning because you built your raft out of everyone else's silence. I just stepped off. Then I pressed send. The chat went still, that kind of silence that isn't empty. It's heavy, final, true. At 5, I walked down to the art gallery again, portfolio under my arm. The director flipped through my drawings and nodded once. You've got something here. Submit for the open slot next week. My chest tightened, heartbeat quick and steady. For once, someone saw me, not for what I could do for them, but for what I created. That night, when I returned home, the apartment felt lighter. Miles had left a small note on the counter. Proud of you. You're doing it. I smiled. For the first time, it didn't feel like survival. It felt like beginning. 2 weeks later, I stood outside my old house. Same trimmed hedges, same pale bricks, same front door I'd walked through my whole life. I told myself I was there only to collect what was left of me. Inside, everything was frozen. The L-shaped couch, the glow of the same lamp, Aaron's chair still angled toward the TV, the entire room a shrine to comfort built on someone else's exhaustion. My mother looked up first, her hands folded like a prayer she didn't know how to say. Aaron hovered near the stairs, pale and tired. My father stood behind them, arms crossed, still pretending control. I set my small suitcase down. I came for my things, I said. No one answered, only the clock ticking like it was counting down what was left of us. Aaron broke first. You must be happy, he said, voice thin, happy to see me falling apart. I met his eyes. No, I'm happy because I don't have to pretend anymore. I don't have to act like you matter more to me than I matter to myself. He opened his mouth, then shut it again. My father stepped forward, voice low, but still trying to sound authoritative. You've embarrassed us enough. Do you know what people must think? I took a step closer. Do you know when I felt embarrassed? When I handed you my award and you didn't look up from your phone? When I gave Mom a gift I'd saved for, and she smiled politely before lighting up at Aaron's. That's when I learned shame, Dad. Not from strangers, but from you. The words hung there, solid, inescapable. My mother's face crumpled. She covered it with her hands, sobbing quietly. I know, she whispered. I stayed quiet to keep the peace, but my silence killed you. I see it now. For a heartbeat, I almost reached for her, but I didn't. That kind of comfort wasn't mine to give anymore. I lifted my bag, sketchbook tucked under my arm. "I'm not coming back," I said. "If anyone asks, tell them I chose to leave, because that's the truth." No one tried to stop me. When the door closed behind me, it didn't feel heavy. It sounded like freedom. A week later, on a quiet Sunday morning, an email arrived. "Congratulations, Ava. You've been accepted into the Santa Fe Artist Residency." I stared at it until the words blurred. Then I laughed, soft, unbelieving. The life I'd only sketched in my mind was suddenly real. By 10, I was at the bus station, suitcase small enough to lift with one hand. Miles stood beside me, eyes bright. "You deserve this," he said. "Not because they were wrong," I answered, "but because I was right to keep going." He nodded, and I stepped onto the bus. The highway unrolled in long ribbons of gold. Outside, the Texas desert stretched into forever. I opened my sketchbook and drew, the horizon swallowing the past, the sky opening wide. As the sun sank into the sand, I whispered to the girl I used to be, the one who had begged for space in her own home. "You don't have to earn their love. You only have to live." The wind carried the words away, and for the first time, I didn't need them to come back. In Santa Fe, the air smelled of red clay and rain. My dorm room was small, bare, but it was mine. I hung my first sketch on the wall, Austin fading into desert, the old life dissolving into something freer. Outside, the desert stretched out like an open canvas. Inside, the silence wasn't suffocating anymore. It was possibility. I wasn't waiting for the phone to ring. I wasn't waiting for approval. I was simply breathing. And that was enough. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from where love is conditional and choose yourself instead. And that's what I did.